I never knew the true power of a single tear until I saw it with my own eyes. Chinedu begins, his voice filled with a quiet, unsettling intensity. The village was peaceful, as it always was. Children played in the streets, women traded goods in the market, and the sun bathed everything in warmth. But that day, something felt off. My best friend John wasn't himself. He wasn't laughing, wasn't joking. He was silent, his eyes distant. I asked him what was wrong, but he just shook his head, avoiding my gaze. We sat together under the old mango tree, just like we always did. But this time, there were no stories, no laughter. Only silence. And then it happened. A single tear rolled down John's cheek. I watched as it fell, slow and deliberate, like it carried the weight of 1,000 secrets. When it hit the ground, the earth trembled, just for a moment, as if it felt the tear's sorrow. The sky darkened, and a chill swept through the village. John looked at me, his eyes wide with fear, and whispered, "They are coming." I didn't understand then, but I could feel it, a change, a shift in the world around us. That tear, that simple tear, held more power than I could have ever imagined. Chinedu stood frozen, the words echoing in his mind. "They are coming." His heart pounded as he tried to make sense of what John had just said. The air grew colder, and the once vibrant village seemed to fall into an eerie silence. Even the birds had stopped singing. John's face was pale, his eyes filled with a terror Chinedu had never seen before. He grabbed Chinedu's arm tightly, as if trying to anchor himself to reality. "We have to leave now," John urged, his voice trembling. But Chinedu was still rooted to the spot, confused and frightened. "Who's coming, John? What's going on?" he demanded, his voice barely steady. John shook his head, eyes darting around as if expecting something to appear from the shadows. "It's too late to explain. We need to get everyone to safety. The spirits of the forgotten are coming, and they are angry." Chinedu's breath caught in his throat. The spirits of the forgotten. Elders whispered about them in stories told late at night, tales of restless souls who wandered the earth, seeking justice for wrongs that had never been righted. But those were just stories, weren't they? John didn't wait for Chinedu to process it all. He turned and ran toward the village, shouting warnings to anyone who would listen. Chinedu hesitated only a moment longer before following him, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. As they reached the heart of the village, a strange wind began to blow. It was cold and carried with it a mournful sound, like the wailing of 1,000 lost souls. The villagers looked up in confusion, some of them already starting to feel the fear that John had brought with him. "Everyone, listen!" John shouted, desperation in his voice. "We have to leave now. The spirits are coming." But the villagers were hesitant, not fully understanding the danger. Some laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank or another one of John's stories. But then, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The wind picked up, swirling around them, and the wails grew louder, more insistent. Suddenly, the village elder, Mama Iridi, stepped forward, her usually strong and calm demeanor now laced with fear. She held up her hands, silencing the murmurs. "He speaks the truth," she said, her voice heavy with the weight of what she knew. "The spirits of the forgotten are coming to claim what is theirs." The villagers gasped, fear spreading like wildfire. They looked to Mama Iridi for guidance, but before she could say another word, the sky above them split open with a blinding flash of light. From the crack in the sky emerged shadowy figures, their forms shifting and changing, their faces twisted with anger and sorrow. The spirits had arrived. Chaos erupted in the village. People screamed and ran, trying to find shelter, but there was nowhere to hide from the wrath of the forgotten. The spirits moved through the village like a storm, their presence bringing destruction to everything they touched. Chinedu grabbed John's arm again, pulling him toward the edge of the village. "We need to get to the sacred grove." Chinedu shouted over the howling wind. It's the only place they can't reach. John nodded, fear in his eyes, and together they ran, dodging the spirits as they went. The journey to the sacred grove was treacherous, the path winding and filled with obstacles. But they didn't stop, driven by the knowledge that their lives depended on it. Finally, they reached the grove, a place of peace and protection, where the spirits had no power. As they crossed the threshold, the wailing stopped, and the air grew still. Chinedu and John collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily, but safe for the moment. They looked back toward the village, now shrouded in darkness and chaos. The spirits were relentless, tearing apart the homes and lives of those they had once protected. And it all began with a single tear. John turned to Chinedu, his face pale and exhausted. I never knew that tear would bring them back, he whispered, guilt weighing heavily on his voice. Chinedu placed a hand on his shoulder, understanding the burden his friend carried. We couldn't have known, John. But now we have to make it right. The two friends sat in silence, knowing that their journey was far from over. They had escaped the spirits for now, but the village they loved was in ruins. And somewhere in the heart of that darkness, the spirits of the forgotten still roamed, searching for the justice they had been denied. Chinedu's voice, filled with resolve, broke the silence. We'll find a way to end this. We'll make things right, no matter what it takes. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, they knew their fight was just beginning. Chinedu and John sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on them. The air around them was thick with tension, and the once vibrant village seemed to hold its breath, waiting. We have to tell the others, Chinedu said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. He stood up, but John grabbed his arm, his grip strong and desperate. No, Chinedu. John's voice was shaky, his eyes wide with fear. You don't understand. The spirits, they are coming for me. For something I did. Chinedu frowned, confusion mixing with concern. What did you do, John? What could bring such anger upon you? John lowered his head, tears welling up in his eyes once again. It was years ago. I took something that wasn't mine. A small thing, something I thought no one would miss. But it belonged to the spirits. I never returned it, and now they want it back. They want me to pay for what I did. Chinedu's heart raced as he processed John's words. This was no ordinary trouble. They were dealing with forces far beyond their understanding. We need to make this right, John. We have to find what you took and return it, before it's too late. John nodded, though fear still gripped him tightly. I buried it under the baobab tree, near the edge of the village. We have to go now, before the spirits reach us. The two friends ran through the village, the once familiar paths now feeling strange and threatening under the darkened sky. As they reached the baobab tree, the wind picked up, swirling around them like an invisible hand, pushing them toward their goal. John dropped to his knees and began to dig frantically at the base of the tree. Chinedu knelt beside him, helping to pull away the dirt. Finally, they uncovered a small, ornate box, its surface covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an eerie light. This is it, John whispered, his hands trembling as he held the box. I should never have taken it. Before Chinedu could respond, a loud wail echoed through the air, sending chills down their spines. The spirits had arrived. Dark, shadowy figures emerged from the swirling wind, their faces twisted with anger and sorrow. Quick, John, return it. Chinedu urged, fear gripping his heart as the spirits drew closer. John, his hands shaking, opened the box and placed it at the base of the tree. I return what I took, he said, his voice quivering. Please forgive me. For a moment, nothing happened. The spirits loomed over them, their presence overwhelming. Then, slowly, the wind began to die down. The spirits paused, as if considering John's plea. The ground beneath the box started to close up, covering it once more. As the last of the dirt settled, The spirits began to fade, their forms dissolving into the air. The sky cleared, and the warmth of the sun returned, bathing the village in its light once more. John and Chinedu stood in silence, relief washing over them as the threat passed. "We did it," Chinedu said softly, though his heart was still heavy. "But this should never have happened." John nodded, his expression one of deep regret. "I was wrong to take what wasn't mine, Chinedu. I never thought it would lead to this. But now I know, every action has consequences, and sometimes those consequences are far greater than we can imagine." The story of John and Chinedu teaches us the importance of respecting what does not belong to us. Even the smallest actions can have profound consequences, and what we do in secret may one day come to light. It reminds us that honesty and integrity are vital, for the weight of our choices can ripple far beyond what we see, affecting not just our lives but the lives of those around us. In the end, the power of a single tear was not just in the sorrow it carried, but in the lesson it taught, a lesson about accountability, forgiveness, and the strength it takes to make things right.